Good morning, good evening, good night. Welcome to the Dear Love Podcast. You can catch us at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Listen Notes, Google Music, Podbean, all that good stuff. You already know how this go. Let's get right into it. NFL draft went down. I could just imagine. Everybody had dreams of doing different things growing up. We all wanted to be something, and I just commend the people who actually followed through with their dreams and made it. I remember how bad I wanted to be a rapper. I remember a principal that was at my high school said he used to do music back in the day, and I used to always tell myself, like, man, I ain't never gonna become a nothing against like schools or principals or nothing teachers, but he just, he said he did music and now he's a principal. But I was like, I will never do that, and I was like, I'm going to make sure I make it. But life is hard, man. Usually it's just like going from point A to point B. You get in your car and you drive and you don't expect to run out of gas, or you don't expect for the brakes to go out, and it kind of just puts you on a detour just a little bit, and you get discouraged and then you ultimately fall off. I mean, I wanted music so bad. I could taste it. I was doing it. I was performing, and I just knew that's what I wanted to do. But it's just funny how life changes and things switch up. So again, talking to that principal, I just was like, man, I wonder why didn't he make it? But then when I went through similar things, choosing the family route over music, and it was like, it was like, maybe that's what he did. Maybe he decided the music thing is not for me, or if I do have to choose, I'd rather choose family. So I think that was a turning point for me. When I heard him, I was so determined. I just knew, oh man, I'm gonna make it. And here I am not doing music. Well, I mean, I still write a little bit in my brain, in my head, but as far as like going in the studio and laying tracks down, I haven't done that in a long while. I guess it's two ways to look at it. I could kind of look at it as I'm another statistic, someone who said they're gonna do something and didn't, or you could look at it as a growing process, a learning curve, as far as, well, it didn't go down how I planned, so I went this route and still made something of myself, and things change, especially how the music is set up now. I don't even really care to be in the music industry on the artist side now. I'd rather stick back, with the writing and all of that. It just seems like more of a spot where I would want to be, because again, just watching how all of these different gimmicks and stuff to get on, and music's not even taking the same. We expect 90 albums to drop a week, and our brains don't really. I mean, we like a microwave era. We need it now, and we don't really care about next week. So I think the writing part is the best part for it. But again, what do I know? I'm somebody who didn't decide to carry on with it. Dear Love, episode 58. Remember those times when you would get your butt whooped real good? I mean, real good. Like one of those, you had to get out of all of your clothes, you do something bad, and you get home, you don't want to show your mom your report card, or you don't want to show your dad that you broke your bike or something like that, and they just whoop you so bad. And you say to yourself, I hate you. I wish I was here, or I wish I was dead. Now, I'm not going to say wish that we were dead, but could you imagine how things shift when certain things don't happen? So let's say you weren't here. Would your parents still be together? Would they have separated? I mean, that's what I mean by like the impact that you leave in life. Because can you imagine how things would be different without you? Think about the things that you do, hell, on an everyday basis. I watch shows like The Flash and stuff like that, where it's like different worlds, and the doppelgangers of this world which is basically you from another time. Hey, in this time you might be mean, or in this time you might be a villain or a superhero or something. It's you, but it's just like, you in a different time. So could you imagine if you weren't you? Are you you? And that's important to think about. That's important to know, because a lot of things could be decided on if you were actually you. I went to my dad's house, and it's funny he was watching this movie. It kind of made me think of this. But out of all movies to watch, he was watching I, Robot. And it just reminded me of how the humans had built these robots, and they wanted them to take over, or they was here to assist us. But you know how the story goes. They ended up taking over and things of that nature. So again, fast forward into today, we hear the different stories about how McDonald's was hiring, I guess they had like little machines that you could punch your order in and stuff like that. Then I think about the sex dolls and how now you can buy these dolls for thousands of dollars, and they do, which it's just like, it's weird. It's real weird. But it just goes back to, again, are you really you? Because somebody had to create that, right? So imagine if that person never lived. Do you know how much that would change everything? Imagine if we never had the caveman. Imagine if the telephone was never invented. Remember, these things are invented by people. So just imagine if that one person was not here. This is why they always preach and say everybody is so important to the community. Every vote counts. Everybody's just important to the world, because without one person, it could change everything. So when we get those whoopings from our parents and we say, oh, I wish I was dead, or I wish I wasn't here. Just imagine if you weren't here. Imagine if you didn't go to school, how that would change. All of the things that you've went through in your life. When you first got your license, and you got your license, so you taught somebody else how to drive. Now imagine if you weren't here to teach that person. See, those type of things I think about on a daily, and it's real interesting how those conversations turn out. Because if you weren't, that's how I know I'm very important. You're very important. Your mom, your dad, your sisters, our kids, we're all important for that very reason. Imagine if they weren't here. And like I said, imagine that if you weren't here, your kid wouldn't be here. Now let's say your kid becomes a all-star in the NBA, or hell, let's say your kid is in the NBA. But could you imagine not experiencing that feeling, all because that kid's not here? Think about your school days. Think about all the friends that you met at your schools, how you guys grew up together, your first fight. Your first everything, man. Your first friend that you ever met in life. Think about the things y'all experienced together. Could you imagine if that friend never lived, if that friend wasn't here? It makes you think like, damn, all the things I experienced because of that person. Now I can't live. Like, it's like, not saying you won't be okay. It's just a different perspective of, man, maybe I wouldn't have got my license as quick, or maybe I wouldn't have got them as late. Maybe I would have never knew how to fight. Maybe I would have never knew, certain table manners that I learned from, just anything. Hell, if your parents didn't have a certain person around in their life to mold the way that they grew up. So then it makes you sit back and think about relationships also. Like, could you imagine, let's say you're with your significant other. Could you imagine how life would have been without them? Let's say you've been together for, 8 years. Could you imagine rewinding 8 years back and that person wasn't there anymore? You ended up meeting somebody else. You know it wouldn't end up how it is now, and that's whether it's for the good or for the bad. But just imagine them not being there. When you first lost your virginity, imagine it not being from that person that took their time with you or whatever it was. Or again, in a bad way, you know, I would hate for anyone to go through, any sexual assault or anything like that. But let's say that never happened. Let's say, that it didn't have to go down like that because that person was never here. And now it's something else. It just shows you every little step that we take is very important. So that day that you skipped school and you got that F on that test because you didn't know it was a pop quiz that day or whatever happened. So now you got to repeat the 10th grade. Or that one day you didn't want to go to work because your friend was in town from California and now you're fired. So now you're looking for a job. And it's like, well, if that friend never came down from California, I would still be working. So we can't be mad at decisions that we make because it is always a learning experience. I guess you can only kind of just sit back and just say, well, what can I do better next time? Because again, once the moment happens, the moment has happened. Like I said, I couldn't imagine growing up without my peers that I've had. I had a great childhood, and I'm really sitting back and thinking, like, when I first played the Super Nintendo, when I first got hip to Donkey Kong, and just all type of stuff. I can't imagine not going through that. So I guess it really is important, to enjoy every moment, even the bad ones, because you have some people who can't enjoy any moments because they're no longer here or they never were here. Gotta think about it that way also. So again, just something to think about, nothing major. But every time you make a decision, I guarantee you'll start to think like, this could have went a totally different way, especially if it's something that you did out of anger. It could have went a totally different way if we just sat back and thought about it just a little bit. Probably could have got a better outcome. So kiss your loved ones, man. When you see your mom, give her a kiss. You see your dad. If you have any kids, give them a kiss, man. Tell them you love them. And just live life to the fullest no matter which path you take. Dear love, T. Shaw, I'm out of here.